Hey guys, what's up? My name's Chris. This is going to be my first ever 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray review, which I'm going to do for the film Annihilation, which is written and directed by ALEX Garland. Now, the reason I decided to pick this film as my first 4K Blu-ray review is because it happens to be my favorite film of the year so far. Now, to jump into the tech specs real quick, it is shot by Rob Hardy, the cinematographer. He used the Sony F65 and the red Weapon Dragon, I believe is what it's called. I might be off a little bit there. Both resolutions he used were 6K for both cameras, and the film itself is derived from a 4K digital intermediate. So with this disc, you are obviously getting the full K resolution experience as far as the resolution side of things to go. The HDR and wide color gamut both look fantastic, despite the image being soft and hazy looking, which is, intentional based off the director and the cinematographer's intent. You still get plenty of contrast. You get some very good black levels, especially during nighttime sequences. For instance, and I'll try not to be too spoilerific, when the Natalie Portman's character, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and the other supporting cast members, who I cannot remember off the top of my head, so I apologize for that, but during the nighttime sequence when they first encounter this insane looking bear, which if you've seen the movie has got to be like one of the coolest creature designs in recent memory. You get these really dark, deep, inky blacks, and there's not so much artificial light being used in that sequence. So, you get a naturally darker looking image, but because of the contrast that's able to be created with the extended dynamic range of the, 4K format, you still get plenty of detail. You don't get any black crush. You don't get any elevated black levels or anything like that. So you get this very deep and vibrant and rich looking image. Another sequence, and I'll try not to be too spoilerific again, is toward the end of the film. Well, that might be a little spoilers in itself, but anyway, toward the end of the film, when Natalie Portman's character kind of goes down this tunnel, it gets very, very dark. But because of the extended dynamic range with the HDR medium, you see all of this different detail while she's traveling down like this narrow tunnel, and like some of the texture and like the way it's designed reminds me a lot of H.R. Giger's artwork from back in the day, which is really, really cool. So yeah, the black levels are very, very good. Color reproduction is absolutely amazing. Now, you won't think that initially when you first start watching the film, because it does start with Natalie Portman's character being interrogated by Benedict Wong. And I should also mention that there is some minor banding that occurs during this sequence, but it's not terrible. And I imagine if you own a high-end Sony panel like the Sony ZD9 or one of the newer OLEDs that they have out, like the AF8 or the A1, if you enable the smooth gradation feature with that extreme processing chip that they have, they'll probably smooth that out a lot without removing any sort of fine detail. But that aside, the transfer otherwise holds up really well as far as the compression side of things go. It's a very solid encode. So yeah, the color side of things looks very, very well. In fact, when they first wake up inside of the shimmer and they get outside of their tents, like, you will be genuinely blown away by how deep the yellows look and how well it contrasts the greens of the foliage and the other nature aspects of the interior of the shimmer. Jennifer Jason Leigh's character wears like this olive drab looking raincoat, and that's generally not a color that you think would pop off the screen, but for whatever reason, and a lot of it has to be attributed to how awesome the extended dynamic range is with this format. It's very deep, it's very bold, and yet it just feels so natural, and it doesn't feel superficial or artificial. Like, it does genuinely feel lifelike. Skin tones look absolutely exceptional. They're very rosy, they're very natural, they don't feel overbaked, they don't feel too pale to where it feels like you're looking at a dead body, which can be a problem with certain films. I'm not going to name any names. Born Identity. So anyway, terrible joke there, but yeah, the video transfers is very, very good. The texture of everything, especially like the rifles that they carry, like, if I noticed, in my viewing distance is probably about 5 to 6, maybe 6.5 feet away from my TV, but you could almost make out, well, you pretty much could make out the individual shell casings inside the magazines of the rifles that they were carrying, and that's some pretty cool stuff considering like there's really no close-ups of the magazines inside the rifle, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, during the infamous bear sequence, which I won't spoil, hopefully that doesn't give anything away too much if you haven't seen the film yet, the black levels there are very, very good, and there's like some very minor lighting. I think maybe like from a lamp or something like that, or maybe a light bulb. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it creates a very nice contrast, a very good looking image, especially for the type of atmosphere that that sequence provides. Like, it's genuinely creepy and unsettling, and the music complements it well too, which I'll get to with the audio quality in a second. So yeah, would this be a reference-worthy title? I would say unfortunately not, mainly because of the minor banding. And to me, when it comes to reference quality, I don't generally base that off of whether or not an image is like inherently razor sharp, or if it has like these super bright, colorful images, or if it has a clean looking image. Like, if you don't like film grain, I do happen to like film grain. To me, reference quality means, does it adhere to the source material and do so without having any noticeable compression issues. Well, as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, the minor banding does kind of take it down a notch. But other than that, that moment though, it does look absolutely fantastic. So, you know, if I were to grade it, I'd say like a 4, maybe a strong 4, maybe a 4.5 out of 5. But yeah, I would definitely say that it's worth getting for the video quality, especially since it is a noticeable upgrade over the standard Blu-ray, which I did watch. And the standard Blu-ray doesn't look terrible or anything like that, but you can definitely tell that more effort was put into the 4K version. So this is definitely a very good example where the UHD is definitely almost a night and day difference compared to the standard Blu-ray. Now, as for the audio quality goes, it does have Dolby Atmos. I do not have a very sophisticated Atmos setup at the moment. I'm running the LG SJ9 soundbar, which, you know, is not optimal if you're an audiophile, but for someone like myself in my current living situation, I think if I did do a sophisticated audio setup, I would probably get kicked out of here. And this thing is not bad either. You can't really see it right now. I'd have to pan the camera, which I should also mention my setup at the end, so it can provide some context for what I'm seeing as to whether or not it aligns with, you know, what you might end up seeing or what you're hoping to see. So I do have the SJ9 for when it comes to, you know, the Dolby Atmos experience. I use quotations there because I know I'm not getting the full Atmos experience. However, this thing still kicks very, very hard when it needs to. For the most part, the sound design is based off like these small, nuanced, very atmospheric sounds. So you really don't get what I would call a reference quality Atmos experience until you come across that bear sequence, which in that case, it is very, very impressive, just from a technical standpoint. I would even say that when Natalie Portman's character, Lena, when she fires her rifle for the first time, the bullets, when they come out, I mean, that thing, it just like, poof, 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 like the way it just kicks is definitely amazing. And then during the third act, which I really don't want to try and spoil anything because it is really cool, but I'll just say, like, there is a very, very awesome sequence that features some really impressive music, in my opinion. And thanks to Dolby Atmos and the way, like, it creates a sort of surreal, mesmerizing, immersive experience, it does amplify that sequence like times 10. It looks and sounds very, very good. So yeah, overall, as far as the collective package goes, I think this is a very good transfer from Paramount, with also a very solid audio track. I think it would have been better if this was, I shouldn't say better, because I mean, it still does the job well for the type of film that it's being. I mean, if this were like a rock solid action film, you know, the Atmos track would absolutely slay. So when it needs to you know, be amplified, it definitely does that in folds. So yeah, as far as the collective package goes, it's very good. Video quality, I'd give a 4. Like I said, a very solid 4, maybe 4.5 out of 5. Audio quality, I'd say, you know, again, a 4, a very solid 4 with a 4.5 out of 5. I'd probably stick with the 4 out of 5 for the audio quality. You know, again, compared to the regular Blu-ray, it absolutely squashes that thing. And the photography is just really, really good. I really like Rob Hardy's aesthetic. You know, I know a lot of people, they adopt the 4K format because they're trying to get this super lifelike experience, which some films do provide, you know, if that's what they go for. And I know, like, studios are marketing this as being, you know, 4 times the resolution as HD, and, you know, you're getting this super sharp picture, and you get the HDR sticker where they talk about, you know, brighter, deeper, more lifelike colors. And, you know, that for the most part that is true, but what sells me on this format is, and it's one of the reasons why I'm creating this YouTube channel and starting to do these reviews, is because I don't think a lot of reviewers actually touch upon this, which is sort of surprising considering if you're watching this and you're probably the same type of video and film enthusiast that I am, is the 4K format for the first time, I think, really does a tremendous job of bringing across the director's intent from the comfort of your own living room or wherever you have your theatrical setup, as opposed to, you know, having to go see it out in theaters, which I'm still obviously a huge proponent of experiencing a film in a theater-like setting, especially if you can go to a Dolby Cinema or IMAX Laser. However, I will concede that compared to a standard theater projection, the 4K format with HDR definitely best it does. You get a wider range of colors, you know, get more dynamic range, better contrast, better black levels, you know, especially if you got a pretty good setup. And with that being said, I should actually talk about my setup, which you can't really see. But I have a 65-inch LG B6 OLED, which is a 2016 model. I'm using the Oppo UDP-203 as my 4K Blu-ray player. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm using the LG SJ9 soundbar for my audio setup. So, yeah, with that being said, first 4K Blu-ray review, hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it provides enough context and information to help you decide whether or not you want to get this film. I would definitely say go for it if you're somebody like me that wants to experience films the way that the director or the cinematographer would like you to experience their photography and their sound design, obviously. I think this is a transfer that definitely does that for the most part. Like I said, the only knock is the minor banding at the beginning of the film. Other than that, I didn't really notice any sort of compression issues. This is actually a very good release from Paramount, I would say. So yeah, I would say definitely pick it up. Very good film overall too. Like I said, my favorite film of the year so far for many reasons. I'm thinking about maybe doing a separate video to kind of talk about that more in depth, where I can't use spoilers and stuff, so I can maybe create like a back and forth dialogue with others that have seen it, so I can kind of get you know, their thoughts on the film. I think it's very well done. I'm disappointed that internationally it only ended up going to Netflix. I think this was one of my favorite theatrical experiences of the year. You know, I got to see it in theaters, and I really got to see it with maybe, you know, 2 other people in my showing, and it was quite surreal. You know, it was I don't want to use the word different because I feel like that can get applied to a lot of sci-fi films nowadays, but it was definitely a very singularly made film. Like, it's Alex Garland all the way through and through, and for that I think it's better. I think he's a terrific director, terrific writer too. I mean, a lot of us already know that based on the fact that he did, you know, I believe he wrote Sunshine, 28 Days Later. You know, he did Dredd, which, speaking of which, you know, Carl Urban has talked about how he should get a directing credit for Dredd, because that should really be his first film based off of everything that went down behind the scenes for that. But anyway, I'll stop deviating from the original intent of this video, and I'll just close it up by saying that, yeah, you should definitely get Annihilation. And I would say that even if you weren't, if you've seen the film and you weren't particularly blown away by it, I still think you should buy it because, you know, as you can see, it's currently only a Best Buy exclusive all the way until October 29th, 2018. And the unfortunate part about that is, you know, Paramount, they sold the international rights because they didn't think that this film really had any sort of commercial appeal. So if you want to see more obscure titles, even if you don't particularly care for Annihilation, if there's something that you like say like Phantom Thread, you know, I would definitely say that you should buy the films, you know, buy these types of films just so you can continue to not only support the format, but so you can make sure that, you know, you're doing your part to make sure that smaller, more obscure films like this can actually reach this format. Because in my honest and humble opinion, I think the 4K format blows away Blu-ray. It obviously slays DVD and Laserdisc and VHS and anything came before it. But I think that, you know, those that don't think 4K is really all that great, I really don't think they've had the true optimized experience to really understand like what this format can do, especially in your own home. Like, it really does feel like you're sitting in a theater and you're finally able to take this thing in the way that that it's intended to be seen. So it's really cool. So yeah, other than that, I would just say that I'm going to try and do, you know, hopefully one review a week and then kind of pump it up from there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, come back for more. All right, see you.